Welcome for to today talk sessions. We have Miss Intan Sharlina from PETRONAS. She will talk about on asset life extensions, asset life extension management of aging offshore fields. Okay. Today talk is organized by Oil, Gas and Mining Technical Divisions, OGMTD, jointly with Women Engineering sections of IEM. So my name is Hani. I representative of OGMTD. With me, I have Miss Irene. Miss Irene. Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Irene here. How are you?
Okay, Miss Irene, representative of Women Engineer for today talks. Okay, as per now, I can see around 43 participants joined. I see a quite number of women's engineer in the groups. Right, that's nice to have a lot of women's engineer that still interested to hear and talk about all engineering subjects today. Okay, just I said just now, Ms. Intan will talk on asset life extensions, management of aging offshore facility. This is a 2 hours talk sessions. For IEM members, you will get 2 CP points if you tune in until the end of the sessions, at least. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Tan, to allocate your time for today's talk. That's quite difficult to find a time to contribute to giving a talk, technical talk to others, people outside of your organizations. I want to add something.
Yes, I think first and foremost, thank you very much to Ms. Intan for your time and also sharing your expertise in the field of how we can actually enhance the operation upstreams through the asset life extension management studies at aging offshore fields. I believe that today the talk is basically a very interesting topic because it is crucial to us to ensure that the assets integrities and reliability of these assets is actually optimized, while at the same time we are not compromising the safety and reliability of the system as well. So I think this is a very interesting topic because you are actually not your work experience is actually very niche. We are working upstreams, and also you are coming to talk in terms of a lady, a female engineer's background. So I think this is something very inspiring that will be our participants will be very interested to hear more about you. So I guess without further ado, we can start the talk.
Yes.
So we will be handing over the floor to Ms. Intan for sharing session.
Thank you so much, IR Azani. Thank you so much, Miss Irene, for the introduction just now. So I think before I start, I want to also express my gratitude to the Institution of Engineers Malaysia for inviting me to share some of my knowledge and experience in terms of asset life extension management of aging or offshore fields. Yeah. So next slide. Let me start with introduction of myself, I guess. Next slide. Okay. So my name is Intan Sharlina Shaarani. You can call me Intan. Currently, I am attached to PETRONAS Carigali Joint-Venture in the JVM, Joint Venture Management, where I am the asset manager for Hibiscus Ventures in Peninsular Malaysia. So I have more than 20 years of experience in the upstream oil and gas industry, where I have served as in the production and operations, have served in the facilities. Yeah, I've served in terms of asset integrity assurance and also project management. Okay, so before I joined, before I was attached to Joint Venture Malaysia, I was in Malaysia Petroleum Management of PETRONAS, the regulatory arm of PETRONAS for about 7 years. With my last stint in MPM, I was the focal for asset life extension. So I'll be sharing my experience based on that number of years where I was the focal for Ali for MPM when PETRONAS starts to enforce asset life extension to all the PETRONAS contractors. Okay. So this is the content of my presentation. Basically, I'll start with why we are having this presentation. What are my objectives? And then I will go on to talk about the asset life extension. What is it all about, and why is it important in the introduction session? Then we'll go through the regulatory provisions. So as of other upstream activities, of course, there are it is being regulated. Next, I will go through the requirements of asset life extension, basically the process that are required in order to extend the operations beyond design life. And then we'll go through in detail the step-by-step for the process, which involves, first of all, determining the future operational context of Ali for the asset. And then we'll go through the asset life extension study, whereby this is the structured study line, the structured assessment for a contractor to identify what are the gaps and what needs to be done in order to qualify the asset to continue operations beyond the original intended design life. Then I'll touch on the risk assessment and management. Risk assessment and management is actually one of the essential component of Ali, because asset life extension study is actually a risk-based approach. So we'll talk about that in a bit, and then we'll talk about the endorsement. Yeah, what are the prerequisites that are required in order to get endorsement to continue operations beyond design life? And then I'll conclude and we'll allow for some Q&A if there are any. Okay. So objectives of the presentation. Okay. I've listed here 5 objectives. What I hope to achieve by the end of the talk here. First of all, I would like to increase awareness on importance of asset life extension, because our oil and gas industry is actually a mature industry where most of the key assets are already aging, and in fact what you call a significant amount of production contributed by these mature assets, about 60% of it from the database that we had. So it is important to address this earlier, because the assets are not getting any younger. So sooner or later, the early implementation will have to be executed, and also the regulatory requirement also ask for this asset life extension to be implemented for assets that are going to be operated in the extended operations, right? So next, we'll cover the principles and concept of Ali, asset life extension. In short, we call it Ali, as part of managing the aging or matured field. So I hope by going through a little bit of the principles and concept of the asset life extension, you can capture some of the fundamentals to what you call make you appreciate more on why Ali is important. So this is just a 2-hour session. Actually, there are a lot to cover. But what I'm covering is some of the key requirements as stipulated in the Ali guideline. I'll talk about the Ali guideline later on. It's actually an open document. You can have an access to it, and you can further learn, go through the guidelines and then learn from the guideline or what are the requirements. Yeah. So that's number 2. Then number 3, I would like to clarify on the regulatory requirements. So who are the regulator? What are the regulations requirement related to Ali, and what's the implication? Yeah, if a contractor do not comply to the Ali requirement. Yeah. Then next, I hope I would also be able to raise some awareness in terms of the risk assessment and mitigation aspect of the life extension, which I've mentioned is an essential component of the asset life extension, whereby the risk, the risk needs to be identified, because operating beyond the original design life comes with risk. So that risk needs to be identified and also managed. Okay. Lastly, by going through all these other objectives, yeah, I hope that you'll be able to, for those who are managing offshore asset that are approaching design life, you would be able to get some information to develop your own strategy or approach to manage your matured asset, yeah, through the offshore asset management. Okay. Next, okay. Let's go into the main content of the presentation. So, introduction of Ali and why it's important. So, basically, on overall, Ali is actually an asset management strategy, right? Asset management strategy, where the strategy is to maximize the economics of the asset, whilst at the same time making sure that it is safe and still reliable to continue operations beyond the original intended design life. So why we have to conduct Ali? Okay, if you look at the slide on the left, I have 3 main reasons that are listed here, but there are, there may be more reasons, but I just want to highlight on the 3. First of all, we want to continue monetize remaining hydrocarbon, right? So even though the assets are aging, but there may be remaining reserve, a lot of remaining reserves that we can continue to monetize, right? And also maximize the return of investment. So typically, just as a background information, typically assets, offshore assets are designed for about 20 to 25 years for it to be operated. However, some of the fields, having resources or reserves that can be produced longer than that original design life. Yeah, so as much as possible, we would like to extract any, all the remaining hydrocarbon and maximize the return of investment. So you're aware about how expensive it is to perform exploration production activities. So a lot of investment has been put into the E&P activities. So as much as possible, we want to let the asset continue to generate, revenue for us, right? So secondly, to ensure assets continue to operate safely and effectively. So knowing that the fact that our offshore operations are in harsh environment, right? degradation mechanism are quite significant, where we have, especially corrosion. So we want to make sure if we are operating beyond design life, is it still safe, right? And is it still can be operated effectively? So we need to conduct implement ALI, also to avoid any failure to any of the equipment that can possibly cause downtime, unplanned downtime, or even worse, accidents. Okay, so to further describe the requirement for ALI and when is the timing for ALI, let's look at the graph that I've included in this slide. This is the typical field life cycle. I'm sure most of you have seen this. This is quite common to be presented when talking about the asset management and the life cycle of asset and its management. Okay, this graph showing the production profile across the timeline for a field, whereby upon exploration and development, the initial operations, of course, the production, we have production increases because the reservoir is still new. There's still a lot of pressure, still a lot of reserve and resources. So we can see that the production profile typically will increase until production stabilizes, and it reaches the maximum, right? And thereafter it will plateau, and after the peak or plateau, a peak and plateau period, we will see a decrease in production profile, because as the as the production has been depleted, there are smaller reserves and resources, and also lower pressure in the reservoir. So we see that the production started to decline. So this is when the asset is considered as matured, right? So going into matured field operations, actually there is there are a specific approach to manage the matured fields. Okay, I included here the three approach. If you can look at the under the mature field operations, you can see production and reserve enhancement, PRE or PRE, late field life optimization, LFLO, and also asset life extension, ALI. So as a production decreases, normally contractor are required to sustain production and also maximize recovery. This is where they will undertake activities to increase or enhance the production and also reserves in the field, right? So activities related to the PRE would be activities that would potentially grow the resources and reserves, such as maybe new field exploration, redevelopment, or even focusing on subsurface and wells, subsurface optimization, or wells optimization, either well restoration and things like that, right? So that will be the major activities upon the production decline. But as the asset matured further, if you look at the graph going further to the right, this is when the contractor is expected to undertake a late field life optimization, or LFLO, where LFLO basically has a strong focus. Contractor are required to strongly focus on the reduction of cost, right? How can the OPEX be reduced? How can the process be simplified? Because the reserves is low, but we need to make sure that it's still economically viable, and we need to focus on the OPEX reduction. So that's LFLO. And moving forward, as the asset approaches this end of design life, right? And this is when contractor would have to implement asset life extension in order to continue operations beyond the original intended design life, especially when the assets have still a lot of reserves, right? Like I mentioned earlier. But now the focus would be on safety, integrity, and reliability, whilst ensuring that it is still economically viable to operate further. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about the regulatory requirements. So for asset life extension, since this is involving the assets operating in Malaysian waters, of course, the regulator or the authority is PETRONAS. And PETRONAS through Malaysia Petroleum Management, MPM, will be enforcing this requirement, right? And how do PETRONAS enforce these early requirements is through these three main documents that you can see in the slide. First of all, of course, the overarching document is the PSC contract, or the production sharing contract, the agreement where all the PETRONAS contractors signed in order to get the rights to explore and produce from blocks that are awarded to them, right? So under the PSC contractual provision, contractors are required to comply with rules, regulations, and also directives by PETRONAS. So that is a standard, what you call provision in the contract. And how these rules and regulation, or where the rules and regulations are further stipulated, is in PPGUA. Okay, again, I think PPGUA is widely known. I think most of you have heard about PPGUA. PPGUA is the PETRONAS procedures and guideline for upstream activities. So this is the one-stop governing documents covering from exploration until abandonment, where all the PETRONAS contractors are bound to comply with in order to continue with their upstream activities. So where is stipulated in PPGUA, the early requirements are stipulated in Volume 8, PPGUA Volume 8, Production Operations, and specifically under Section 3, yeah, for the asset integrity and reliability management. Good. So Clause 3.2 says that contractor shall conduct asset life extension study, okay, for their mature assets at least 5 years before it reaches the end of design life, unless the asset is no longer economical to produce. Okay, so in PPGUA, it's already what you call define the timeline to start the early study, because early study is not really straightforward a process. It takes a lot of effort, yeah, to do a complete and structured assessment on the equipment, covering all equipments, covering all disciplines of the asset to be extended. Then there's another clause, section 3.13, where it says that whenever the assets are extended beyond the design life, the focus shall be on the safety, integrity, and reliability of the asset. Yeah, and also the assurance that it is economically viable to operate further. Okay, so if the assets from the historical production, from the information on what are the remaining resources and reserves, if it is determined not to be economically viable, then a contractor not required to extend the life. Of course, why do we want to spend money, right, to extend the life of the asset when it is no longer economically to produce. So what we do is just we continue to produce until the production cease and relinquish back to Petronas. Okay. And the more detailed requirement, because PPGOA is specifying the requirement at a high level. So the more detailed requirement is stipulated in the document called MFOM, or Matured Field Operating Model, which was issued by Petronas in sometime in 2019, where it describes the requirement for aging asset management, and covering the three asset management strategy that I've mentioned earlier: production and reserve enhancement in section 2, LFLO in section 3, and ALI, the complete ALI guideline is in section 4 of the MFOM ALI guideline, of the MFOM document, sorry. So this ALI study, if you look at the governing requirements, ALI study is an execution of ALI will be the basis for contractor to fulfill continuous operations requirement, yeah, safely and effectively, and will be the basis for Petronas to review and make decision to allow or provide consent to continue operations beyond design life or not. Okay. Next, on the ALI requirements. So I'll go through now the key considerations for ALI. I've talked about the strategy in maximizing economics and while ensuring safe and reliable operations. So I'm not going to go through that anymore. But okay, the key considerations for ALI as included in the ALI guideline involving these six major activities, which is depicted by the chevron on the process. So basically, there are six major activities in the ALI guideline. It is known as the ALI six-phase ALI process, where the first step is to establish the operational context, the future use of the facilities, what are the resources and how the resources is going to be exploited, and also looking at the time frame to extend the asset, whether it be another 10 years or 20 years or things like that, right? So that's the start. Contractor has to establish this first future operational context, right? And then continue with the ALI study. So the misunderstanding is that ALI is just ALI study. Okay, so I hope by the end of the talk, you will be aware that ALI study is just a part of the ALI implementation. By just conducting the ALI study, it doesn't mean that you can continue to operate beyond design life. So you need to perform all these six main activities before you can get full endorsement or full consent from Petronas to continue operations beyond the design life. Okay, so the next step is risk assessment. So belum. So risk assessment needs to be conducted based on the recommended action plan. Okay, as an outcome of the ALI study. And then it's important that all this assessment be documented in an ALI report and needs to be submitted to Petronas. Okay, where Petronas will go through the review process and make decision, informed decision based on the outcome of the asset life extension assessment. Okay, and then once the ALI early study outcome of the proposal has been reviewed by PETRONAS, then the contractor can continue to implement the early plan, close all the gaps. And from time to time, PETRONAS has the right to perform audit for assurance that contractor are fully complied to the early requirements. All the gaps have been closed, all the plans have been implemented in the extension period. Okay, next. Okay, so let's go into detail the steps that I talk about. So the first step is establishing the operational context. So whenever the future operational context to be established, there are three main considerations that needs to be looked at, which is the use of facilities, future use of the facilities in the extension period, the resource available and how it needs to be exploited, and the term of life extension. So when we talk about the use of facilities, contractor needs to look at the what are the activities in the future, like are there future development, are there tie-ins, will the asset be used as hubs, right, for any tie-ins, or whether the asset will need to be modified, or whether there will be some facilities improvement plan, FIP. And in terms of resources, there's a need to assess what are the remaining resources available. Not just that, are there sustainable demand and sustainable supply, and we have to look at also the reservoir, whether there are changes in the conditions of the reservoir. For example, are there increasing in terms of contaminants, like CO2 or mercury? Is there a need to add on additional processing equipment to address all these contaminants? And with all these considerations, will there be enough capacity for efficient production and optimal recovery of the production during the extended period, right? So if there are new equipments to be installed, we have to consider if there are space. Yeah, there's space, the weight capacity can handle this additional processing equipment. If there are drilling or workover activities in the future, can this old asset, the old structure accommodate the drilling rig? And lastly, the life extension period. So how does the life extension period determine? Basically, it very much depends on number one, the remaining reserves. So if let's say the time frame that contractor can economically extract all the remaining reserves is for another 10 years. So maybe that is the timeline that you should be looking at to continue operation beyond design life. Or if for example, the PSC term is longer than the original design life, because sometimes PSC gets extension because of the remaining reserve. So you may consider to continue the operations until the end of PSC expiry. Or sometimes it may be because PETRONAS has their own internal strategy. They may, provide directive how long the asset needs to be extended in terms of its operation. Okay. Next step. Okay, let's look into the early study. So early study or commonly known as ALES. ALES is a structured assessment. Okay, it's a structured assessment. Basically, to identify gaps in the current operations and to come up with the mitigation plans in the context of future operations, right? So I have included here some of the activities extracted from the ALI guideline, but again, the detailed requirements for ALI study is included in the ALI guideline, where each discipline or categories are elaborated at length on what needs to be covered when early study is conducted. Okay, so early study ni, if you look at the left, in terms of the activities, are mostly actually taking stock of all the equipment that you have in the asset to be extended, covering all disciplines again, as I mentioned, and then look at its historical performance, right? Looking at its historical performance, looking at the maintenance of the equipment previously, and looking at also the barriers, the safety critical barriers for the equipment, right? What are the performance of the safety critical barriers? Have it been maintained, correctly and as per the requirement? And whether this equipment and the barriers will function, it will be functioning well. The integrity is intact when it comes into the next 10 or 20 years during the extension period. So basically taking into stock all this, and then further going into looking at for the next 10 or 20 years, how it will further deteriorate, right? What are the mechanism and how much deterioration, what's the magnitude? And then based on the future operational context that have been established earlier, there needs to be an assessment how this equipment, how these barriers will be functioning, or performing in the future. Then how long can this equipment or the barrier can be extended? How long does it correlate with the intended term, the extension term? So so based on all this review process, so the contractor will be able to identify gaps. Okay, so that's the intention. So based on all this historical data that you have, you have to look at the gaps, in the context of the next 10 or 20 years, what you need to do. Okay, come up with the recommendations, what are the remedial plans, right? So these recommendations as included here can be, you may need to just repair, you may need to replace, you may need to retire it, decom it because you don't need it anymore. You may need to upgrade, or you may not need to do anything for the next 10, 20 years. It's still good to serve in the extended period safely and effectively. And on top of that, I mentioned here a little bit on the, other considerations, such as looking at the organization structure, the aspect of the manpower, looking at competencies, because sometimes when the recommendations involve, for example, using new technologies, there may be a requirement for new competencies to be included in the organization. Or maybe because of simplification, assets are being retired or decom, there may not be a requirement for certain position, then the organization can be leaner, for example. So all these needs to also be considered when going through the asset life extension study, right? So another important thing after completion of the study, there is a need to estimate the cost. Okay, remember the asset life extension must be economically viable, right? So so in order to run the econs, we need to come up with the cost estimates, okay, for all the remedial actions, what needs to be done by when, and calculate the economics, the the NPV for the early implementation against the production or the revenue from production. So all this needs to be taken into account. Okay, in the right side of the slide is actually an extract of the Ali guideline, where as a minimum, Ali guideline stipulates that these are the disciplines and category that needs to be covered during the asset life extension study. Pipeline, subsea, structural wells and drilling system, topsides, terminal facilities, looking also at the maintenance management, how the equipment needs to be maintained in the future, and also the metering system, the hydrocarbon measurement and allocation. I pause here to answer any question if there is any.
Okay, there are one questions. I think I also have this question on mine. This will be carbon capture, right, and storage. So the question from Mr. Wan Muzaffar is CO2 or carbon capture and storage a part of ALE?
So it can be a part of ALE, especially for asset that have high CO2. So as an effort for a GHG reduction, one of the recommendation can be for a CCS, but again, of course, the recommendation needs to be analyzed in terms of the cost benefit analysis. If implementing CCS project, which is also not so cheap, will affect the economics of the asset, and so it needs to be maybe it needs to be looked at different angle, right? So the proposal needs to be presented and discussed with MPM, yeah, during the review and decision process.
Does Malaysia have success story on this?
On what?
On the carbon capture and storage.
I think it's ongoing. Ongoing. We have Kasawari project. I think it's still ongoing. There are a lot of projects being lined up, but I think mostly not related to Ali, mostly related to effort for GHG reduction. I think that I'm not really familiar with CCS. Maybe if you like, maybe we can invite someone from the CMD, Carbon Management Department, to provide briefing on CCS, specific for CCS. Okay.
Okay, one question on PPQA. Other than what you highlighted in the slides, what is others PPQA guideline in terms encouraging of environmental protections and so on?
Environmental protection.
Yes. Do we have any governance or guideline?
Environmental protection, I tak tahu apa. I need to check because I can't remember.
Okay.
Okay. I can't remember because when you you're in MPM and you you managing specific issues, right? Your your focus is on that issue and the requirements related to that issue in PPQA. So for environment protection, I need to check and get back if if you'd like to know more about it.
All right.
I think dalam abandonment ada mention juga sikit for environmental protection. Tapi I think probably HSE ada kot, HSE. Section on HSE.
Okay. In terms of governance, do we have others party that will look at on this governance?
For what? Ali?
Ali, yes, Ali.
Okay, so when we talk about Ali, of course we talk about asset integrity, right? Of the asset. So when the life extension study looking at the asset integrity, the requirements of course is linked back to other, what do you call that, other regulations, other requirements related to asset integrity. For example, like requirement by DOSH, right? On what do you call environment and personnel safety. Also requirement by regulation by MARDEP, right? Maybe covering the FSO. So, and then there are requirements on asset integrity management. So, of course, when you talk about asset integrity, so the other regulations apply lah, as normal lah. So, cumanya for specific for Ali, the regulation is related to what I have described earlier lah. Okay.
Okay. I didn't want to add.
Okay, I have a question here, Ms. Intan. Because you are sharing that basically we need to sort of like achieve a balance because we are operating our assets against the design condition. So what can you share with us one of your biggest challenges or experience on how you actually managed to achieve a balance or sort of middle ground between extending the asset life while not jeopardizing the reliability and safety of the operation? What is the biggest challenge that you have experienced before and actually how you overcome it?
I think what you're questioning is related to contractor lah kan? Because the asset life implementation is being carried out by the contractor.
But
for
actually,
the
how are
assets that
you
they operate,
going to
right?
Evaluate them? Because you are going to evaluate their proposal, right? So
Yeah.
actually, how do you maintain a middle ground or a balance when you are doing the evaluation?
So when we get their what they call their proposal, the Ali proposal, what we do is we have our technical professionals lah, yeah, from GTS to assist us in terms of the technical aspect of the of each discipline, right? So we have TPs from structural, we have TPs from mechanical, and they will look at the requirements under their expertise, what are required. So mostly again, it's related to the asset integrity when they look at the Ali and the risk, yeah, associated with the aging equipment and the aging assets. So if you ask about the, the challenges, I think mostly are related to the challenges in Ali for offshore is mostly related to probably structural, and because there needs to be an assessment on the structure, whether it is still intact, the anode, the cathode, the protection in terms of corrosion is fully intact. And then also there are considerations on corrosion, because like I mentioned, harsh environment, so it impacts the degradation, um, right? And then what else? So all this it's not cheap, right? It's not cheap to implement. So sometimes that's where the risk assessment plays a role, right? So the recommendations may not be to replace, say for example, the whole length of pipeline, but maybe a portion of the pipeline which has a higher risk. So what are the mitigations that are available in order to mitigate this risk, right? So this this will be developed as a proposal, as a plan for MPM endorsement. So I won't be doing or looking at all the technical aspects, because I'm not a technical professional, right? So all these TPs will do the assessment, and they will have these clarification sessions. When this report is submitted, it will be reviewed, and there will be a back and forth clarification sessions. Sometimes there will be additional requirements, evidence that are needed in order to provide that assurance to the TPs that the risk has been considered, has been evaluated, has been assessed, and has a proper mitigation plan, and it's properly ranked. Because sometimes these are also being challenged in terms of the risk, the ranking, the priority, and how long contractor needs to in order to close the gaps. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your sharing, Miss Intan. Another question I would like to ask is that because just now you are sharing that basically you need to get a lot of inputs from all the TPs, right? You need to have from the technical professional in Petronas will be engaging a GTS to do that sort of like evaluation on the proposal coming from the vendor. So when you are dealing with so many inputs coming from so many technical professionals, um, how do you think is the most effective? Because we want the evaluation should be kept in an effective manner, so that we'll be able to take into account the inputs from all the TPs, but at the same time it must be realistic as well. So how do you think that you have any best practice for you to share that will be able to manage all these inputs coming from all these technical professionals, while at the same time maintaining the evaluation of the proposals to be realistic enough to be implemented? Do you have any best practice to share?
Yeah, I guess because the early study is by disciplines, right? So um, when we get the technical support to review, basically the reason is to give us the assurance, right? What contractor are doing are good enough, and can be used as a basis to provide that consent to continue operations beyond design life. So what the TP does, because this is like an assurance review, right? So it's similar to documenting audit findings, for example. So they will be looking at the discipline, the equipment, and what are the findings, and what are the clarifications, further clarifications required. So these are all what you call properly recorded, yeah, in an Excel file. At the moment, it's still in the Excel file, but eventually Petronas is looking at establishing a system, yeah, to manage all these findings. So I think that would be the best practice lah, when all the findings can be documented in the system. But for now, it's still being handled manually, and we have our PMT team that manages the number of findings, that will be going back and forth for the clarification with contractor.
Thank you so much for your answer, Ms. Intan, and your sharing. Yep.
Okay.
So, Engineer Ashani, any more question coming from you? Otherwise, maybe we can hand back over to Ms. Intan to continue on her presentation.
Okay. So next, let's look at the next phase, which is the risk assessment. I think we've talked somewhat about the risk assessment. I mentioned that early study is a risk-based approach. So even after the early study, the assessment, when there are, when there are
allowance
when there are recommendations made based on the recommendations, which are the remedial actions to close whatever gaps that have been identified, there's a need to perform a risk assessment. So with all these mitigations in place, the identified risks, the mitigations, are there any more residual risks? Okay, are the risks allowed enough, right, for Petronas to provide the consent requested? So so this needs to be performed by the contractor after they have validated, because before Petronas review, all these findings need to be validated first. The requirement in the early guideline is that, okay, contractor, you have to review first internally. You have to make sure that all your technical authorities, agree with the findings. The findings are correct. The findings are aligned with everybody, and the mitigation plan is also agreed. And this early study needs to be signed off by the highest management, of the company. Yeah. And then I talk about the risk assessment. I think you guys are probably familiar, more familiar than me. So there are different techniques that can be undertaken. Some of these that are included in the early guideline, the ones that I included on the right. Okay, so but specific to the requirements of the asset or specific issues of the asset, contractor may undertake a different technique, a risk assessment technique. For example, hazard is not in here, but if hazard is applicable, you can use hazard, and or other risk assessment methods lah. Okay. So next, so the next 3 steps related to submission of report, review and decision by Petronas, and gap closure, and also assurance. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a key activity, and that's why it's included as one phase where contractor are required to compile everything together, all the from the operational context until the risk assessment for all the equipments, for all the categories, compiled it in an early report, where we will review and come up with a basis for the endorsement. And this review session, so recently it's a requirement to have a review session with the technical review committee. So apart from submitting the report, the plan needs to be presented to the committee in order for the committee to look at other angles apart from what the TPs have covered. Maybe specifically in terms of business requirements and things like that, before they can give the endorsement lah. So the endorsement can be either full endorsement, or if there are certain issues that needs to be further ironed out, Petronas may give a conditional endorsement, where the full endorsement is subject to closure of these conditions. Okay, so once the early proposal is accepted and endorsed by the technical review committee, contractor can start executing all the remedial actions. And as I mentioned earlier, I think I've mentioned earlier that PETRONAS have from time to time may conduct audit to ensure that all the gaps that have been presented to the committee, the RC committee, been executed and closed. Okay, so that's the 3 last steps to make sure that early is the risk of early is as low as reasonably practicable. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So I think this is my last slide. So basically, to conclude, before any more questions and answers session, so extending the operations beyond the original intended design life comes with risk, right? And this risk needs to be identified and also assessed and mitigated so that the operations of asset is allowed. And then again, this will be the basis for PETRONAS decision making in providing endorsement, either to endorse or not. And the consequence, if PETRONAS doesn't endorse, then the platform may be required to stop work, or to shut down if it is deemed not safe to operate beyond design life. Okay, so I think that's about all what I have to cover.
Right. On the floor, participants, do you have any questions?
Yes, feel free to ask any questions. And I think it is a once in a lifetime opportunity to have Miss Intan here. So you feel free to ask any questions, and we hope to get the clarifications of any doubts coming from the participants, especially in terms of how to conduct an early studies.
I'm not really well versed on offshore. Well, I can say that LA is more to extending the operation of the asset. Is that correct, Ms. Intan?
Yeah, as I explained earlier. Because when assets are designed, of course, there is a time frame for it to be operated, right? So say, for example, it's designed for 20 years. So after that 20 years, the operations is considered beyond the original intent, right? The original intent to just operate until 20 years. But as I mentioned, there may be consideration to extend it for another 10 years based on production or based on whatever strategy on the asset management, right? So the portion where the life is extended is where we need to do that assessment, the early implementation, assessment, and also the remedial actions closed out. What are the proposals that needs to be done, right?
So PETRONAS is still using Excel to record all these informations. Do you PETRONAS plan to have a database on this?
I think I've explained this already.
Okay, I see a lot of database on this, but yeah, we hope to see more asset management database that being implemented by the operator worldwide.
So, Ms. Intan, I'm actually from Petronas as well, but I'm on the downstream business. So I would like to get more information from you as well, because do we already have a success story in Petronas? Because I think if we already have that, then it will be one of the very inspiring part, as we have already managed to get some kind of like value creation coming in terms of these ALE studies. Do we already have that, or we are still in the midst of actually performing some kind of like a study to identify any optimization opportunities? What is the Petronas status currently in terms of the ALE studies?
Okay, so again, I'd like to correct you, Miss Irene. It's not just about ALE study. ALE study is just a portion of the ALE requirement. As I mentioned,
Okay.
if you look at the chevron, there are 6 activities. ALE study is the second step. Yeah,
Okay.
so ALE implementation is the correct term to be referred to, and not the study. ALE study is just
ALE
part of the ALE
implementation.
implementation.
Yeah.
So of course there are already success stories. Otherwise, like I mentioned, we have so many assets, almost 60% already producing beyond design life, right? So for these assets to continue operations, they need to go through the process, right? No doubt before the informed ALE guideline, where there are no detailed requirements or no specific requirements, assets go through the ALE implementation through their own internal understanding or internal process. So that's when you probably will already hear about asset rejuvenation. Okay, so asset rejuvenation is actually part of asset life extension lah. So like I mentioned, this almost this 60% of assets. I think you know Beko. I think you probably also know apa lagi ya, Semarang, for example, in Sabah. These are all assets that are operating beyond design life, right? Seligi complex, which are operated by Enquest. All the assets are already expired in terms of the design lives, and they have undertaken the ALE implementation. They have presented to Petronas Technical Review Committee, and we've given endorsement, right? Petronas has given endorsement. Sorry, I keep on saying we as if I'm still in MPM. I'm no longer in MPM. So Petronas has given that consent to continue operations. Otherwise, these assets will need to shut down, right? Because it's not as straightforward as, okay, you continue operations because even though you've reached the end of the design life, because you still have, more reserves. It's not as simple as that. Okay, the considerations, the key considerations that I talk about, this needs to be done. So there are success story. If you like, maybe separately I can share, some of the case studies without disclosing, what are the assets or who are the operator and what kind of, ALE implementation that has been carried out. So, but of course, to answer your question, there are already success stories related to this ALE extension, asset life extension.
That's very inspiring to hear that as part of the Petronas team. Yep. So understand that actually this is already something that we already have been realized. We already realized the value creation coming from this ALE implementation. Yep. So is there any more questions coming from the floor?
Okay, if we don't have question from the floor, thank you, Ms. Intan. for today's sessions. Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Intan, yeah, from Petronas and Joint Venture with Science Speakers. For this talk series, we call it talk series, or GMTD with WE, Women Engineer of IEM. We have a series of talk. Last year, we used like a Santai kind of chill out kind of talk programs. We talk about all the informations, sharing information between all the operators, contractors, and so on in oil and gas. This year, we are focusing on women's engineer. That's why women's engineer sections in the loop. So I think last 2 months, we have the opportunity to have Miss Azlina from Hibiscus. Okay.
Zalina. Yeah.
Zalina from Hibiscus. And
Yeah.
then next coming event that we have with Women's Engineer Sections is with Mr. Jayanti, also from Hibiscus, I think. Yeah. She will talk about subsea. So more offshore experience by women. We love to hear that. I want to add something.
Yeah, maybe Miss Intan, because I think talking about working offshores and then in terms of, especially when we are looking from the point of view of a woman engineer, definitely it will be, the challenges is there. We cannot say that there is no challenges. So maybe if you do not mind, can you share some of your experiences working offshore as a female engineer? What is the main challenges, and what can you give some inspirational words to our future engineers or any other engineers that are interested to work in upstreams, so that we can maintain to be preserved, dedicated, and at the same time we can thrive and excel in the challenging and as well as the dynamic landscape. So maybe you can share some of your experience there.
Okay, inspiring word. I think probably amazing experience is the word that I would use to describe what I have experienced throughout my career in the oil and gas industry, because I started as a young facilities engineer. But I was fortunate to be able to join ESO. I started with ESO as a facilities engineer. So ESO at that time, actually it's already an established company, because the parent company is in Houston. So they've already have this, culture. They have already established somewhat in acceptance for women engineers. I think what we are seeing now, like things like diversity and inclusion, is already been practiced by ESO since more than 20 years ago. So in that sense, I have similar opportunities like other male engineers to show my capability and my knowledge and skills. So I get the same opportunity because of facilities engineer. We do a surveillance. We need to go offshore every frequent, quite frequent. So it was an amazing experience lah. So first of all, I think there's a lot to learn. Okay, when you go offshore, you witness yourself in person what are the upstream activities all about, what are the equipment involved, right? How they manage the activities. So it is I think an amazing experience. So rather than you you work onshore and you know about all these things, you know about say for example compressor, yeah. But when you go offshore, you get to see, right, the compressor in percent and things like that. So having that experience to you know have that first hands what do you call observation and experience. So that's amazing. So so what else? Okay, the opportunity to go offshore by helicopter, you don't get to do that. Right? It's very expensive. I've done you know, contracting process on helicopter per head. At that time, 20 years ago, it's already a few hundreds US dollar, I think almost 500 US dollar. So being able to experience, you know, traveling in helicopter, and then having to go through all the necessary safety requirements, like having to go and get BOSET, the certificate for us to be able to go offshore. So that's an experience that I think is valuable to me, that has built my character and also has shaped me into who I am now, I guess. Yeah. But nevertheless, there are a lot of challenges that comes with it. Like for example, when we were younger, during that time, there were not many women engineers. So I remember a lot of time when I was offshore, I would be the only lady among the other 200
Yes.
personnel on board. So there are pros and cons. So at one side, you know, you want to be accepted as one of the men, right? One of the guys, so that you get the same trust and respect. But at the same time, you also have to, you know, manage your, you know, needs as, you know, women and things like that. So I guess the key word is to be able to adapt, right? To be resilient and embrace whatever challenges that you need to overcome. I think in that sense, I was able to do that lah. So whatever struggles that I have, like you know, managing career at the same time, probably managing family as well, having to go offshore even when I have small children and things like that. So that is actually something that I can look back and be proud, you know, as an achievement, working as you know, a lady in the oil and gas industry. So I think that's that's about what I want to share.
Yeah, that's really inspiring hearing from you, from your experience being the roses, the only rose among all the other thorns, and how you managed to actually thrive, and you managed to have a very excellent career progression, even though you are working in a working environment which is dominated by male counterparts, but you managed to prove your capability that we as a woman, we are able to perform at par with our counterpart, and we are able to achieve a similar work progression as well as achievements together in this tough working environment. I can say that actually, Ms. Intan, one of the purpose we are having this webinar focusing on women is because we want to highlight on the women achievement in the engineering industry, as well as we would like to highlight on the importance of having diversity and inclusion in the workplace actually. But we have a last question coming from engineer Nordini. So this question is coming from Engineer Nordini, in which she is interested to know, since this is this alley is regarding the extension of assets. So if anything goes wrong in terms of audit, who should be the party to be responsible? I think her question is because she is concerned, since Petronas is very strict companies in terms of safety compliance. So she would like to understand more on how you're actually tackling with this in terms of the responsibility wise. Yeah.
So of course, the responsibility of early implementation lies with contractor, right? Because
Yes.
the assessment was carried out by them, and the proposal plan is also developed by them. So contractors need to be responsible for the safety and reliability of the assets that they operated, as well as the their people lah, the the staff.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it
So
still comes into
if
contractor
there,
lah.
yeah, so if there are any incidents, of course it will be managed through the normal incidents lah kan, whereby there will be a requirement to conduct root cause of the incident, and what are the recommended way forward to avoid any future recurrence. So things like that we manage through the similar incident management that currently we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Intan. I think there is another question coming from Engineer Raza Abdul Razak. So this question is, if you are given the chance to change your life again, so will you still change the course in your current career? Will you still go for upstream business, or in the oil and gas industries, is there any specific areas that you would like to further venture on in your future career progression? So I think we go for the first questions first. Do you have any feeling of regret actually if you select this area, which is quite, I think, which is quite not a common career lah, that will be chosen by female, especially when we are talking about females that works in the upstream industries, where we need to go offshore, we need to be away from home. Just now, when we heard about all these challenges and all the sacrifications that you have made throughout your career. So the feeling of respect to you is, Miss Intan, is basically, I think it's beyond words. Yeah. So if you are given another opportunity for you to change your career progression or make a choice in your life again, would you still go for this path?
Of course, I love my job. I love my job. I love what I'm doing. I love what I have experienced. As I mentioned, it's an amazing experience. So I do not have regrets, and I do not wish to turn back time and do something else. But what I do plan to do, because apart from having all these technical capabilities, I also have the soft side of me, where I actually love interior interior design. Interior
I
design.
see. That's so big contrast against to your work culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is something that I actually I think I always have it in me, because I like to decorate the house. I like to buy nice things for the house. But when I have to renovate my house, I find that this, because I was hiring an interior designer, right? So I think their job is so very interesting. They get to spend other people's money, buying nice things and setting up a house from nothing into um, a home, right, from a house into a home. So I guess I love doing that, and I have that opportunity. I probably would, venture into that line in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, that's interesting, Miss Intan, because we always heard people saying that people who work in the engineering industry do not have art sense. So I think you have both. Yeah, you have both the technical capability, and at the same time you have this artistic sense and artistic blood in yourself. So I think this is something very interesting. I think in terms of we can break the stereotype coming from people telling that engineers do not have art sense. Yeah. Okay. So do you have any more questions in the floor? Yeah. Okay, we have engineer Abdul Razak commenting. That's very interesting.
Thank you, IR Raza.
So maybe we can have one last sharing coming from Miss Intan. Can you share one of the experience about you having to stay offshore? Because what I understand is that you need to be away in the offshore for 2 weeks, right? I'm not sure last time, based on your working experience, how long you need to be in offshore. Can you share one of your interesting experience that you need to be staying in the offshore for a long time? And do you face any issues for interesting experience, such as you need to tackle with some environment in which you need to be staying alone in a woman hostel, this kind of thing, in which you can share with us, so that for us that haven't got the opportunity to went offshore, we have more insights and we will be better prepared to face with this condition when we are required later.
So I'm actually based onshore, right? But of course, from time to time, as I mentioned, as an engineer taking care of offshore asset, we have to go offshore either for a purpose of surveillance or for the purpose of looking into projects, right? So I think but you're right. I have been offshore that long. I've been offshore. I think
What is the
almost two
longest that
weeks.
you haven't?
Yeah,
Two
almost
weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks,
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
almost 2 weeks. That was during the produced water system upgrade at Seligi, because at that time I was the Seligi facilities engineer, and we were commissioning the produced water system. So we have the contractor, the vendor, and a projects team on board. So I was there to be part of the team to commission. So it was I think the longest and probably the most challenging, because when you talk about going offshore and the amazing experience that I say, where I enjoy, getting on the helicopter and then looking at the blue sea and, be in the middle of that blue sea, right, where it's very calming, especially in the morning or in the evening, when we go outside, we have all the breeze, and then we can see the what do you call, the vast blueness of the sea, right? So it's nice, but having to stay for that long, it was a struggle for me, because I think first of all, being away from family again, like I mentioned, where I have small children, so and I was also still breastfeeding at that time, so I have to manage, uh, sometimes peculiar ways to get my baby to become, I kind of like left my used clothes and things like that, so that she has that smell of me.
Oh,
So
okay. That's
and
very loving of you.
and also I think some of you may find this peculiar. I also bring my husband's clothing, for example. So, but yeah.
Okay. So you will
So
you will smell
that's
their
very
clothing
funny too.
also.
Yeah, just to um
Get the feeling of getting close with them.
yeah, just to manage being away from them and things
Yeah.
like that. And like I mentioned again, being the only lady on board, it's also difficult, especially last time, where we have rules that we're not, we cannot lock the door, right? The accommodation. Of
Oh,
course, I
I
get
see.
one room for myself
Mm-hmm.
whenever I go on board. They give me the supervisors, one of the supervisors room, mostly the production supervisors room.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the room all to myself, but I cannot lock the room, right? Because it's one of the safety precautions in case of emergency, especially at night. We can, just quickly go out and assemble at the emergency assembly area. So it was difficult for me because I don't feel so safe, not having to lock the door, and also somewhat anxious if there are any emergencies. um, I have experience where we need to assemble because of I think it was a process safety shutdown, where we have to assemble very early in the morning, but the station was under control by the asset team, the emergency response team. So it was difficult in that sense, where you have to you know the risk, and you know that you are in the situation where hazards are around you. And but you have to be offshore because it's your job, and of course you love doing it also, right? I love going on board of the platform. I remember Seliki has production and compression platform, so I will just go up and down from the production platform to the compression platform, because one of the on the job training requirements was to complete a set of activities, in order for us to be familiarized with the offshore operations. So, but it's challenging, yeah. And I have been offshore when I was pregnant with my second child.
Oh.
During that time, was not really so strict in terms of having to go offshore even though you're pregnant. So
Mm.
I have experienced that. So I have climbed up and down the pipelines, big pipelines, without so much of being worried, because at that time, being young, you just want to explore. You just want
Even
to.
when you are pregnant, I miss Point Intan,
Oh no
during
lah!
that time.
During pregnant, I don't climb up and down. so so that was fun. Um, Another thing is, because we have to go offshore, I think you know about the requirement to get the offshore safety passport. So
Yes.
that's another challenge that we need to do. Last time I think it was not as the validity of the certification is not as long as now. Now I think it can last for about 4 years. Previously, I think, if not mistaken, every 2 or 3 years we need to renew a passport. So it's also something that is challenging because you need to go into all these simulations, right? Where you have to learn how to survive in the event of emergency.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I still have to do that because now as I joined Carigali Joint-Venture Management, managing hibiscus. So I probably need to go visit the asset because I'm the asset manager. So I need to start thinking about the timing to renew my passport, because the last time the last certificate that I had, it just expired without going offshore because it was PKP time. I renewed it just before I think PKP in 2019, so it has already expired with I think probably I went to Carigali has one time with that passport, and then that's about it. So now it has lapsed. So again, a helicopter simulation.
So hopefully you are ready for that. Yeah, Pak Intan, since I think it's like I think you are familiar with that activities with the safety training. So I guess it wouldn't be a challenge for you.
It is a challenge because now I'm not so young.
The young blood is still there. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Intan, for your sharing. I think it's very inspiring because we know that despite having so many challenges working offshore, just to quote some example that you mentioned just now, you need to be away from the family. You need to be the only female engineers who is working on the platform. You need to tolerate with the feeling of insecurity because you are not able to lock your rooms. You need to be alert at most of the time because of the safety concern working offshore. Despite all these, and I think there is many more of the challenges that you actually have not been able to share with us today. Yeah. Despite having all this challenge, you are still able to demonstrate your persistence, resilience, as well as your, I think most importantly, is your spirit of not giving up, and your passion to actually contribute to your organization, which is to our organization, which is Petronas. And you are able to demonstrate that female engineers are actually able to contribute and also able to actually work in a tenacious condition in a hectic working environment. And also thank you very much for your contribution, because I think one of the main besides focusing on our topic, which is on the our ALE discussion just now, we would also like to embrace the contribution of women, especially when you are talking about a working environment which is not that friendly for women working offshore, especially when you need to be away from home and you need to be working in a hectic working environment, and in which we know that working offshore has its safe risks. So yeah, I think thank you so much for your sharing today. It has inspired, I think, most of us today, and I am one of it, because I am actually focusing more on downstream business in Petronas. So when I heard about what you told me, I'm actually very inspired, and I'm looking forward to more opportunities working in the offshore so that I can actually learn what you have actually practiced and what you have actually shared with us today. Yeah. So I think, yeah.
Downstream process is actually more complex to me, and for us
we don't have to
upstream,
go for the safety thing, the helicopter thing. Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have been in downstream as well. I was in BSF Petronas Chemicals for about 6 years. So the process is more complex. There are more equipments to take care of, like the reactor, the boiler, and things like that. But for offshore, I think it's quite straightforward in terms of process. So in terms of process, you will learn more actually in downstream, I think. Okay. I think that's about all. I think I want to share, but I have something in my mind that probably I also want to mention here, is the good side of being a lady offshore. When we go there, I think my colleagues from the same batch probably agree with me, because during that time it's very lavish in terms of the food, can, so we get
Oh, okay.
special special treatment. We get to to order like lobster. We have cheesecake all to ourselves. So, and even during that time we can bring home. So I guess being a lady, although of course I said, like I said, as much as possible we want to be accepted as one of the guys, but there's an advantage, like being treated as a lady and get all this special treatment
Yeah,
in
so we
terms
have a
of
lot of
food.
gentlemen.
Yeah,
We have so many gentlemen,
because
yeah?
because food and sleep are the only leisure offshore, and apart from work, that for leisure, that's what we do, eat. And yeah, so I think that's about it. Thank you so much again, Miss Irene. Thank you very much to Institution of Engineers Malaysia for inviting me. Like I mentioned, I was not able to cover a lot of the technical aspects of ALI because it's a very actually large topic. With the ALI study portion is actually the bigger chunk in the ALI guideline, and probably the most suitable person to talk about the ALI study itself is probably the TPs or the consultant that conduct the ALI study, right? Because some contractors, they don't perform their ALI study by themselves. They engage consultant, right? So these are the people who are technically competent in that area, in each discipline. What are the requirements? So perhaps maybe I suggest in the future, maybe IEM can also invite, if the topic is of interest to the members, just specifically for the 2 hours talk about the ALI study itself, right? So because I was covering mostly on the process, on the requirements, where which I was the focal for PETRONAS for the past 3 years. Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you, Miss
Thank you so
Intan.
much.
All right, I do have experience in asset extension for PGU1, the Peninsula Gas Pipeline. That's about it for onshore. Right, thank you for your time, Miss Intan. And we in good time right now, 15 minutes to 7. Thank you also to the participant who attend these sessions. Stay tuned for the OGMTD and also WE talk in the future. We would like to see more and more engineers register to IEMs, and also more and more women's engineer being acknowledged and established in the oil and gas industry. With that, thank you, Ms. Intan. We
Thank you
end
so
this
much.
session. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Good evening. Bye.
Good evening.